I've been thinking about this chapter a couple times, since I read it, and I think that it might be my favorite chapter so far within Four Knights of the Apocalypse. And one of the reasons that is, when you have a continuation or a sequel that isn't set on the previous characters, like for instance, like Fairy Tail right now has 100 Years Quest, but it's with the same main cast, pretty much picking up where the, chapter 545 of Fairy Tail left off before it got to 100 Years Quest. Whereas Four Knights of the Apocalypse takes place in the Seven Deadly Sins world, but it's with an entirely different cast of characters. It's a continuation, but it's its own new thing. Kind of like, whenever JoJo goes from part 1, part 2, part 3, continuing onward. But the thing that I really liked about this is because of that, we're able to have aspects of the previous series, mentioned, and it's really cool to see it in a way that, hypes up aspects of the series and stuff from the story and the lore that are more from the perspective of characters that only heard about it but weren't participating in it. And that I really like. Though I'm not, I like the setup for Four Knights of the Apocalypse more than Seven Deadly Sins. Seven Deadly Sins, like I mentioned before, I was not a huge fan on the last arc. I still enjoyed this series overall, but one of the things that is very, it's always a plus for me, is when you have, a kind of next generation set of characters or a setting, and they give a level of kind of respect hype to the previous ones. And that was in this chapter when they're talking about stuff like Merlin. I thought that was really cool, hyping up Merlin, the boar's sin of gluttony and stuff. For instance, when Boruto was going on as well, I especially early Boruto, I'm alright with the mangas right now, but early on, a lot of people didn't aspects of Boruto's character and stuff. But one of the things that I was super, super happy about is when, say early in the series, when a lot of the younger people saw, Naruto actually go up and flex how powerful he is when, the people attack the Chunin exams. That, stuff like that is always cool when you have characters really kind of come to the realization of, the level and kind of respect they have. The kind of respect that is weighed upon a character and understanding why. When you had the characters kind of some are, just for instance, Boruto really kind of understand Naruto. And there was that part when they were fighting Momoshiki when he gave him that really big Rasengan, and he was saying what did my dad have to go through for his chakra to become this heavy? Talking about just the level that he had, and really when you think about it, that's a one-sentence thing that makes you instantly think about the entirety of the story of Naruto's journey of where he's at. And it's not the same thing in this chapter, but you know what I mean when you have characters kind of going over stories and aspects of the previous story that like I said, that show it from their perspective, stuff they heard not from being there. I always think that's cool because it just gives you the viewpoint of of the people that only know certain bits of information. Say early in the series, say Seven Deadly Sins early, we were seeing stuff from how people heard about what happened to Meliodas and Seven Deadly Sins. It was cool to see their perspective of what they heard happened, when they thought Meliodas and the Sins were traitors and stuff, but that wasn't the case. But it's still cool to see it from the standpoint of the citizens, or just, like I said, people not involved. But in this chapter, I'm assuming this is going to be the female lead, this girl Anne, and the only thing we're really given about her in the first chapter is she seems to be able to tell when people are lying. She's there with her father, and who's talking to Ironsides. And what's cool is in the first page you see Ironsides silhouette, but when I looked at it I was oh, it's probably just a silhouette kind of to reveal it was him. But you see her when she's looking at her father as her father is talking to Ironsides, and he has this kind of black mist over a little bit of his body, and she's saying that he's lying. And then it goes over to Ironsides, who just looks pitch black, because she's saying that nothing he says is the truth. Everything he says is just a big lie. He's just full of shit. I thought that was really cool because it took a scene that was oh, it looked like it was one of those silhouette reveals, but it's no, you're just seeing it from her perspective. of that point. And again, I like that too. I thought that was just a really neat piece to introduce her character with. And after that point, like, it just shows Ironsides and mentions a piece of the Coffin of Eternal Darkness, which I thought was really interesting. He's like, it's an ancient relief showing a crowd in prayer, a piece of the Coffin of Eternal Darkness, as we call it. And the Coffin of Eternal Darkness, being the, what sealed the Demon Clan and like the Ten Commandments and stuff at the end of the First Holy War. I thought that, again, was really cool because, as I mentioned, I always really like it when characters bring up stuff from the lore and story and aspects that makes you think about, like, the large-scale story, and, it also gives extra benefit to rereads and stuff, and to really kind of understanding, and it makes you want to reread stuff. That's one of the things, too. Like I mentioned, like, that part in, like, Boruto, and, like, that one line that makes you just really think of the whole story, that's one of the things that makes you just go, man, I want to reread certain parts of it, get your hype back up, and, really let you understand the entire story structure that's going on. But then we peer over to Donnie, who's using his whole levitation abilities. He picks up this really big fish, and then it goes right over to Percival, who's talking to his little, magic chibi versions. And so far, to be perfectly honest, the little tiny Percival chibis are probably my favorite part of his character. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Percival being, like, looking like he's a little kid. It's because it was something that was already kind of done to a degree with Meliodas. With Percival, though, he's obviously way more childlike innocent, but I really like in the panels where we see these, like, silly little cartoonish versions of him, like, hanging on his shoulders like a freaking Pokemon. I thought that was just really fun. I think it's a really neat piece that goes with his character, and it's gonna be cool to see where they go. I'm hoping that when he gains control over his magic and abilities, it would be like, this is their standby form where they're, just, again, little cute chibi versions. And then it's like, okay, he gets mad or something, they get serious, and then maybe they, like, Hulk out and get really big and buff or something. I think that would actually be really funny, but at the same time, it'd just be a really cool little character feature to go with it. But he's just saying that none of them are listening to them. He's trying to get them in control, but none of them are kind of following it. I'm very curious about how that kind of works. My guess is it's like, because Percival isn't in a serious situation, they're not going to be serious. Like, if he was in a fight, they'd probably listen to him. But when he's not in a fight and he's trying to just kind of, like, do his normal thing, even if Percival is wanting to do wanting them to do certain things, they're going to kind of respond to his real nature. And right now, in a non-serious scenario, they're going to be, as he is, just kind of, like, non-serious, nonchalant. And Sin even mentioned, it says, magics drive from your disposition and emotional state. And even when Percival is, like, looking at him because they're not listening, he's got more of, like, this kind of funny kid-like frustration instead of more of, like, an actual anger or anything. And you also see Nasians, and he's testing his poisons on the little chibi Percivals. They're, like, changing colors, and, like, one kind of, like, melts a little bit, which is really funny. I thought that's like a nice little touch to almost like a slice of life bit. They're just kind of hanging out. And then we see Percival bring up that knife, like Ouroboros, like, and on top of that, like, the name, I know that's like what, isn't it like a god of darkness or something? I have to look it up exactly, but I know it's, like the snake eating its own tail, Ouroboros, whatever. But he has that, and it goes from a knife to a big blade. It's really large. I'm curious on how many he actually has, because we know his magic is cloak and helmet are also magic tools as well, and him having, like, a set is, like, already different than, just thinking about the whole style of Meliodas, because Meliodas, he had, like, he eventually got Lost Fate and stuff, but he didn't really have anything that crazy about, like, any of his other equipment. It was more of just abilities. I do like Percival's set so far. The only thing that, like, of Percival's kind of, like, character build I'm not a huge fan of is, like, his ability seems a little too broken early on, but him not being able to control it fully is right now is, like, the balance for it. This is because I worry about him and, like, becoming so OP that other characters aren't going to be able to do anything to him. Like, the healing thing is something, like, I kind of wish they introduced later, but I'm not opposed to it. It's one of those things where it's just, like, it makes me a little bit uneasy, but I'm But, you know, that's more of paranoia than, like, me going off of something that's currently, you know, become a problem. Nothing yet, but I'm just, like, you know, a little bit worried. We're going to call it good. You know, it's probably just me being paranoid. I like his power overall so far because it's got, like I mentioned in the, you know, in the chapter we're talking about, you know, when he's using it, was it last chapter or chapter 4? I think it was last chapter. But when he's doing it and it's got like, oh no, it's chapter 12 because last chapter was when Natsu was showing the team. But like when he was using it, it almost had like a lantern like kind of style to it, where it was this free energy he's just constructing into different shapes and whatnot. But with the knife, I'm actually really curious if it's going to be the same thing the whole series, like it's just going to be a you know, a blade that changes shape in just size, or if he could upgrade it, because that's something we never really saw much in Seven Deadly Sins. Is if you could get your, like, just magic tools, like the weapons and stuff in general. We never really went too much into that, but given that Percival already has, like, he's starting out his journey with 3 different magic items, I would assume that they're going to be a little bit more relevant within Four Knights of the Apocalypse. Like, say he upgrades it at one point, like, maybe the knife gains, like, an elemental ability on top of that, or say it gains, like, a, like a type of, maybe like I'm trying to think of just like I was gonna say a duplication thing, but it's like no, that's what Meliodas said. Maybe say it would gain like a just a ranged like magic slash or something. You know, he just kind of like, you know, Link shooting a laser beam, something like that, where he can just blast out like a blade. You know, just think of like when they do like Razor Wind, where it's just like, yeah, I just do a slash and then, you know, this big sharp looking crescent blade kind of shoots out of it kind of thing. I don't know. Either way, like, I'd like to see him upgraded. That's something for me. I don't know about his base kind of helmet and cloak, but I think the sword should definitely get upgraded. I think that would be really cool. Maybe we see it get a little bit more fancy as it goes, get a little bit more detail. Because if you look at the one-shot for Seven Deadly Sins, Meliodas used a great sword, and we saw a little bit of it in the flashback of when he was still with the Demon Clan, as he had his, you know, it was a great sword. It wasn't nearly as cool as the one he had in the one-shot. The one he had in the flashback was kind of just a big sword, whereas the one in the one-shot was a way bigger sword, and it had like a lot of detail to it that made it look really nice and stand out. So hopefully it's something like that with Percival's knife. I don't really know. It's not a big deal, but it's just something I wanted to note. But after that point, like, we did get like a notice of him saying that he can tell if someone's lying. I'm pretty sure that this girl Anne is going to be like Percival's female lead, probably his ship, because if she's all about people who are liars and stuff, she's gonna like Percival, because Percival, like, he doesn't lie. He's too pure souled. He's not gonna do that. She'll probably like that about him. And she also looks really small too, so maybe that'll be like their connecting point, as they both look pretty young. I don't know how old she's supposed to be. I know Percival's 16, but we'll see how that goes. And there was also the point in the chapter I thought was really cool, is Natsians was mentioning the spell beads, which are like magic orbs with associated magic effects, and he's saying that Merlin is the one that created them. So it's essentially like I assume one use, maybe there's some with multiple uses, but like a ball that has just like a set spell in it. An easy thing to compare, because I already mentioned Boruto. Like, Boruto had that ninja tool that had those scrolls. Each of those scrolls had a jutsu in it. It's essentially the same thing. You know, you're going to get an orb, it's going to have one effect on it. Like, say you had one that had, like, absolute cancel, and then, like, you threw it at a character's attack. Like, they threw this big spell at you. You have one of these, you throw it, it goes off, you get, like, a 1-free cancel. Or, in the case that we saw, a teleport, which I think is pretty cool. I like that. That was also one of the things I really liked about the chapter. There was a lot of just small stuff that stacked up in the chapter, I think. That's one of the things I really liked about it. But the small Percivals brought him over to this spot, like, beneath a tree, and they ended up digging up, like, this weird piece of, like, a mural or something. I'm very curious as to what that's about. I have to go back and look. For some reason, the shape, I see the shape and, like, the part where there's the spikes, and I immediately think of where, what's his name? Not Dreyfus. Frauded, the one, the demon that took over. Oh man, how am I forgetting names? Hendrickson. No. Hendrickson was working for him. It was Dreyfus. Dreyfus is the one that was taken over by Frogger. I'm trying to remember. It kind of looks like the the spot that he had to put the sword in. I might have to look back on that if somebody can answer me whether or not that's part of it before I try and figure out where the chapter was. Because I'll probably look for that later today. But like, if it is the case, like, is it part of that whole setup? I don't remember. It's been a long time since I read the chapter where the dude let out the Ten Commandments. Like, it's been years before since the last time I saw that. But after they find it, they're kind of looking at it, and there's noting from Sin that there's something important about it. Like, Sin's just like, you're kidding me, that that relief. And then that's when Anne shows up, and Anne says that I don't know how you found that, but you're gonna hand it over to me or I'll kill all of you. So I'm very curious as to like how she's gonna fight. She's got like an umbrella. I like her design. Like, she's got like this weird broccoli kind of setup of hair where it kind of starts out straight, and then like as it gets lower it gets kind of curly and puffy. And then her just general outfit, I'm guessing if she becomes a main cast member, she's probably not going to stay in that big dress. But her umbrella, I'm hoping her umbrella sits with her moveset, because I think that would be a really just cool, weapon to have if she's got just this strange umbrella weapon. Do some penguin kind of stuff. And it's even got like a little bit of a neat design with like what looks like a flower kind of like bent at the, like the handle down at the bottom. So, like I said, this is probably my favorite chapter so far. Like, the other chapters, I'm just kind of like thinking about them. We got like fight stuff, we got setup. I think if there was any other part that got me more interested in like the totality of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, it's when we saw all of the Holy Knights meeting in Camelot, just because I thought that was really neat to see, this weird, I would assume, pocket dimension that Arthur keeps like his base in, and you have all of these future bad guys and stuff. They're gonna eventually fight like the main cast and whatnot. But for now, I would say this is my favorite chapter. There were multiple things in that I really liked. Again, like, just Nasian's talking about Merlin and hyping up Merlin was nice, because though I'm not a fan of Merlin, I mentioned many times before, I didn't like Merlin as a character. I thought she was a little bit too OP. She was a kind of plot device heavy, and then like the stuff at the end where she also is like, I also at one point was in love with Meliodas, just felt kind of dumb, because I was just like, is everyone in love with Meliodas? Why? But I like the fact that her hype is being kind of presented with her character, because though I'm not a fan of her, she still is like a big deal in the Seven Deadly Sins world. Not from just the story, but just from the fact that, what we know about her backstory. As far as we know, she's the strongest wizard around in Britannia. So there should be a level of respect that just goes onto her name. So regardless of my opinion about her, it makes sense that anybody talking about her would speak about her with like a level of reverence, and almost like talking about her like she's not real, where she's just like this near mythical person kind of thing, with like how much knowledge she has. Because she's like thousands of years old and knows tons of information that that probably nobody's even heard of within the world, that's been lost throughout time. But anyway, other than that though, comment below, tell me your thoughts are about this chapter. Like I said, I really like this one. I thought this was a really good chapter. I'm a big fan of chapters like this in general, when you're getting the respect on the backs of characters that, though I'm not a fan of, I do think deserve it, and do hold that level of presence within their world, that it makes sense if they would have it. And it would be weird if these characters would mention Merlin and not act like she's a big deal. Because again, regardless of my opinion about her, she is a big deal within within the Seven Deadly Sins world, within the Four Knights of the Apocalypse current world. Anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, from like, subscribe button, check out my other videos. Other than that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed. Thank you all for listening.